This is Karl Moore talking management for the Globe and Mail. Today I'm speaking to Katherine Phillips, who's a professor at the Kellogg School, Northwestern University in Chicago. Good afternoon, Katherine.
Good afternoon.
So this work you focused on the U.S., which is a great,
Yeah.
we have Canada, the U.K., Australia, which are also multicultural.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to look at other countries, or are you
Yes.
primarily focused on the U.S.?
Well, I will tell you, I have this wonderful data set on the National Hockey League, which is a very interesting context to think about these questions, and I'm sure that your Canadian viewers will be very interested in this data set. But we have a data set of the National Hockey League over about a 10-year period where we're able to look at the nationality of all of the players who have come, who are on that team. We look at the performance of the team over time and how the changing diversity has affected their ability to succeed, to win games. And essentially, we have a lot of wonderful evidence for these ideas of status distance reduction. So in the 1990s, there was more Europeans started to come into the National Hockey League. In our data set, I think every single team has a majority Canadian, but there's variance in how much diversity there is with respect to other nationalities. And the teams where the starting line of the hockey team, so those 5, 6, if you add the goalie, if you look at the composition of that starting line, if there's at least one non-Canadian on it, the team is more likely to have a positive uptick for the diversity increases that they have.
They win more.
They win more, right? They win more because there's an integration of those people who are different, right, into a legitimate status position of the team, and there's a change. I think there's kind of a shift that happens. That now these Europeans, actually, they could be pretty good hockey players, right?
Okay.
They actually can bring some value to our team, whereas if all of the Europeans are sitting on the bench, you keep that status distance there, and the respect never kind of comes along, right?
Okay.
Same thing is true if you look at who's the captain of the team. If the captain is a non-Canadian, you get much better improvement in performance with that diversity than if the captain is Canadian.
Now this sounds anti-Canadian. What you
Yes,
just
it
said.
does.
So we're not anti-Canadian,
Yeah.
are we?
No, we're not
Very good.
anti-Canadian.
But so the simple message is
yeah,
what?
the simple message is if you are going to have diversity, you have to have integration. It's possible to bring people into the same organization and keep them separate from each other, keep them in different groups that have different status distinctions embedded in them, right?
Okay.
Being on the starting line is very different than sitting on the bench, right? And so there's a need to really think about, if we're going to have diversity, are we really going to embrace that diversity and integrate it into not just, the positions that we don't want, but into the positions that indeed we also, would value. Right, into the valuable.
So it's a change of the coaching style. The coach has got to say, look, at it, probably a good chance you're Canadian. I grew up in this Canadian game, and we're still the best nation at it. But
that's right.
That's right. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the thought is that if we bring in Europeans and Americans, I guess that's the main other place, is that we're going to be able to be more effective by embracing a diversity of styles. And the game requires it sometimes.
That's right. And in fact, you're going to get better play and better input from those people that you're bringing into the organization if indeed you show them that they are valuable and they are legitimate and what they have to bring to the table is useful.
And presumably over time the Canadian players will become a little bit more European at times in their style of play.
Exactly. And if you believe that there is a possibility to improve on anything in life, how do you do that? You do that by taking different perspectives, bringing them together, and finding something new. Right? That's what learning is. It's taking two things that are out there and reconciling them and bringing them together in some way where you create something new. And so if you have this new style of play here and you're not using it, how are you going to learn anything? Okay. How are you going to improve? How are you going to get better? Right? And it's not that I'm saying the Canadians need to play European hockey or that the Europeans need to play Canadian hockey. There is probably something better than both if you just take those two things and figure out the best of each. Right?
A can Euro.
Yeah, can Euro style.
American style.
Can Euro American style of play.
So I live in Montreal in Quebec.
Yes.
Is there anything different about French Canadian players?
Well, we do make a distinction between French Canadian and English speaking Canadian because if you look at the history, right, and you know it much better than I do, there has sometimes been status distinctions between the French-speaking Canadians and English-speaking Canadians. So we do, in our data set, we do distinguish the English-speaking and
So the thought is that you start off with the base as English-Canadian, but we add French-Canadian, still Canadian, but a
That's
diversity.
Right.
We add Europeans and Americans.
That's right.
That's the strongest of all teams.
Well,
have real diversity.
It can be.
It can
be, right? Not always. See, that's the thing about diversity. It can be a little bit risky, right? Can be a really nice positive upside to it, but there can be pretty pretty big downsides if it's not managed well. And
so you have a less than cohesive team. You fight, you argue, bicker,
That's
and
right.
the old
and
enemies continue forever.
Exactly. Or you come together and you actually create a context where we all value each other, we learn from each other, we work together, and we come up with something better than any other team could have possibly come up with because they don't have as much to work with.
So this has been Karl Moore talking management for the Globe and Mail. Today I've been speaking to Katherine Phillips, who's a professor at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University.